Discover the incredible, life-changing secret seniors must eat before bed or risk losing 50% of their joy. The autumn leaves crunched underfoot as Evelyn Johnson peered out her kitchen window, the quaint town of Maplewood shimmering in golden hues. At 72, Evelyn's heart felt heavy, like those leaves ready to fall. Her family, once the vibrant center of her life, had drifted away, caught up in the whirlwind of their own struggles. Jake was buried in debt, trying to keep his small business afloat while Sarah chased dreams in the city, forgetting where she came from. Sitting alone, the warmth of her cozy kitchen felt cold without her children. The gentle clatter of pots and pans, once music to her ears, echoed like distant memories of laughter and love. Just when despair threatened to engulf her, a faded recipe card slipped from an old cookbook, promising a bedtime treat that could soothe aging hearts. The simple dish, passed down from her mother, whispered promises of comfort. With trembling hands, Evelyn set to work. As she cooked, the familiar scents filled her home, mingling with nostalgia and hope. She envisioned her children's smiles, the joy of family dinners. And as the savory aroma wafted into the crisp air, an undeniable pull lured Jake and Sarah back, uniting them under that roof once more. Their laughter returned, dancing through the kitchen like a sweet melody, rekindling cherished memories of sugar-sprinkled afternoons and splattered walls from cookie-making escapades. But just as Evelyn felt the threads of connection weaving tighter, a storm brewed over Maplewood. A company's announcement of mass layoffs sent shockwaves through the community, casting a pall over her newfound happiness. Determined, Evelyn refused to let the fear of losing their home and bond paralyze her. She summoned her neighbors, her heart pounding with tenacity. "We've faced worse before," she declared, her voice strong, brimming with the spirit of the town. Eager faces rallied around her, reminding them all of the resilience Maplewood had shown in times of trouble. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The air crackled with renewed energy as plans for a food bank surfaced, rekindling the meaning of community in Maplewood. Evelyn stood at the helm, her heart racing with hope as people worked side by side, each bringing their strengths forward. But as she looked into her children's eyes, uncertainty slithered into her chest. Could they truly set aside their woes? In the backdrop of a town coming together, she wondered if the power of a simple recipe could indeed mend the fissures of family and heal the scars of broken dreams. Would they rise as a united family or fall under the weight of past grievances? The vision of a bright future shimmered on the horizon, but would they grasp it before it slipped away? Evelyn woke to the soft light of dawn creeping through her kitchen window, painting everything gold. It felt like a new beginning. She was restless, too excited to stay in bed. Last night had sparked something in her. The energy of the neighborhood filled her with purpose, and she could see how it also ignited a fire in her children. As she flipped pancakes for breakfast, the smell wafted through the house like a warm hug. She was determined to make this a family morning, a time to reconnect. Jake stumbled in first, still bleary-eyed, but the scent of food worked like a magic spell. A small smile broke through his tired expression as he took a seat at the table. "Wow, Mom, it smells amazing," he said, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Just like old times," she replied, her smile genuine. "Remember our Sunday morning pancakes?" "Can't forget them," he chuckled. The weight of his worries seemed to lift, at least for that moment. Sarah arrived shortly after, hair still damp from the shower, but her spirit glimmered like a bright star. "You made pancakes? I thought you were cutting back on carbs." Evelyn laughed, sunlight glinting off her glasses. "Life is too short, dear. Today we feast." As they sat and devoured their breakfast, stories flowed like syrup. Laughter echoed off the walls. a stark contrast to the silence that had crept in over the years. For those brief moments, the specter of layoffs and economic fears were forgotten. The pancakes united them, just as she hoped. But as plates emptied and their laughter waned, reality began to creep back in. Have you both thought more about the food bank? Evelyn nudged gently, trying to steer the conversation toward the plans that had ignited her soul. Jake's face tightened. He had that look worn and wary. Mom, I just don't know how I can manage that right now. With the shop and everything, couldn't it be a way to give back? To uplift the town? I felt so much hope when we were planning, Evelyn insisted, her heart pounding. Sarah's brow furrowed in thought. But even if it's just a small effort, it takes time, energy. We're all stretched thin. Despair threatened to seep in again. Yet deep in her heart, Evelyn held onto the glimmers of connection they had just rekindled. I can handle the logistics. You two could help with organizing or gathering donations. Even spreading the word can make a difference, she urged, her voice firm but gentle, like a mother encouraging her fledglings to take flight. It was then she noticed a flicker in their eyes. For the first time, they were looking at each other instead of through one another. Maybe there was a way to move forward together. After breakfast, they decided to take a walk. The crisp air outside felt vibrant, signaling change. Evelyn's heart beat faster as they approached the town square, the sound of chatter and laughter ringing in her ears. As they strolled among their neighbors, Evelyn pointed out people she recognized, faces blending into a tapestry of shared stories. Look at everyone coming together. They need us. We can be their strength, she whispered, but doubt still gnawed at the back of her mind. Would this be the plan that pulled them together or the burden that pushed them apart? Would her children truly step into the light with her, or would they wade deeper in the shadows of doubt? Evelyn felt a wave of uncertainty wash over her, but she refused to let it drown her spirit. She had to believe if they could embrace the wisdom of their past, perhaps they could forge a hopeful future together. Walking back home, a twinkle of determination sparked in her chest. She knew there was more than just the food bank to discuss. There was healing waiting, buried beneath layers of hurt. But would her family dare to dig deep? The question hung in the air, vibrating with potential. Would they confront their shared past, or would they hesitate at the brink of a new beginning? The sun hung high in the sky as they returned home, a warm blanket of light enveloping the neighborhood. Evelyn's heart fluttered with anticipation. That walk had reignited something in her. The laughter of their neighbors, the smiles exchanged, these small moments reminded her of the joy life could still offer. As they stepped inside, Sarah immediately flicked through her phone, scrolling intently. Jake sank down on the couch, staring at the wall, his expression clouded. A heaviness settled back in, like gray clouds rolling in after a sunny day. "Hey, is everything okay?" Evelyn asked, trying to pierce through the silence that threatened to gather. She knew they were both still feeling the weight of their worries. "Just checking if the cafe's busy," Jake mumbled, still not making eye contact. The shop was his pride and joy, but it had become a source of anxiety too. "Jake, you're doing an amazing job with it. But you can't carry everything alone," she whispered, aware of the familiar tension. "I know, Mom, but what if it fails? What if I can't keep up? Then we figure out together," she replied, a firm resolve in her voice. "And what about the food bank? It wouldn't just be a burden. It could help your business too, draw in customers." He turned sharply, finally meeting her gaze. "But it's not just a project. It's added stress. I don't want to take on more than I can manage." Evelyn swallowed hard. She could hear the exhaustion in his voice. What she envisioned as a family project suddenly felt daunting, even impossible. Sarah looked up from her phone, slightly frowning. "Mom, I get it. You see potential in this, but we're already stretched so thin. What if we don't have the energy for it? What happens to us then?" The question hung between them, thick with uncertainty. Evelyn felt a lump rise in her throat. It hurt to see their passion dimmed by worry. What if this is exactly what we need? To work together and support each other in a way we haven't in so long? We could turn things around. "I don't know," Jake sighed, running his fingers through his hair, frustration evident. A silence washed over them once more, each lost in their thoughts. Evelyn turned to the window, watching the world outside. The neighbors were gathering again, laughter cutting through the air, kids playing freely, their joy infectious. Let us just take a moment to breathe, okay? Together. She motioned to the couch. Hesitantly, Jake and Sarah joined her, and they sat in a circle, each with a furrowed brow. Evelyn closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. What if we started small? Just one charity event or community meal. Not all at once, but in small steps. That might make it manageable. It's not about carrying our burdens alone, but sharing them. Leaning on one another. Slowly, Jake nodded, but there was still a glimmer of hesitation in his eyes. Sarah took a deep breath, her fingers tapping nervously on her phone. We could brainstorm, write down ideas, and see what fits. We'll plan it together, she suggested, a hint of enthusiasm breaking through. Evelyn's heart swelled with hope. Yes, that S the spirit. There S transformation in this. I can feel it. But just as the warmth of connection began to creep back, a tune rang out from Sarah's phone. A message from Blake, her friend, about a concert this weekend. Her entire demeanor shifted as she read it, a grin stretching across her face. Let S go. It'll be fun. Evelyn's heart sank, a mix of admiration and disappointment. Was fun really what they needed? There was such weight in the air still. Do you think this is what you want to focus on right now? Mom, Sarah laughed lightly, but the laughter felt hollow. It's just one night. As the struggle between the burgeoning unity and the pull of personal desires unfolded, a part of Evelyn felt the urgency. They had a chance to build something beautiful if only they could all see it. Would they act on this moment? Or would they chase after distractions and risk losing what they were trying to rebuild? The air buzzed with tension, leaving her wondering, was this retreat just the beginning of another setback? And where would their hearts truly lead them next? Evelyn watched as Sarah's smile filled the room, an infectious joy that temporarily painted over the anxiety that had clouded the space only moments before. Yet, the joy felt like a fragile bubble, ready to burst at any moment. Just one night, she repeated, but the urgency in Evelyn's chest pulsed stronger. Sarah, I get that you want to hang out with Blake, but Evelyn searched for the words. We need to be focused on what's really important right now. Can't you see how much we need to stick together? Sarah rolled her eyes, retreating into a defensive posture that made Evelyn's heart sink. This isn't about running away, Mom. It's just a concert. It's not like it's going to make or break our family. Evelyn sighed heavily. Was Sarah missing the point, or was she the one missing something? It's not just about today. It's about building a foundation for tomorrow. If we can't commit to even small efforts together, Jake lifted his head, bringing attention back to him. What about this? His voice broke through the tension like a flashlight in a dark room. We could do both. Go to the concert and still come back ready to tackle those ideas for the food bank. Both Evelyn and Sarah turned to him, surprised. What do you mean? Evelyn asked, her brow furrowing. I mean, maybe stepping away for one night, one tea make things worse. Sometimes you need a break to recharge, right? Then when we come back to this, we can be all in. We'll be refreshed and maybe even come up with a few good ideas or be more open to them. Evelyn's heart swelled just a bit. That could work. But could we at least commit to a planning session tomorrow? Use tonight to refill our cups and come back to this? Fine. Sarah shot back, her earlier excitement waning into annoyance. But can we please just enjoy one night without dissecting everything? Deal. Jake smiled, his shoulders relaxing. As they began discussing plans for the concert, a thought crossed Evelyn's mind. They still had weeks before things could venture into full swing. Perhaps a night of levity was just what they needed, if only to extract a bit of joy from the swirl of effort they'd been caught in. Later that evening, as the concert buzz filled the air, Evelyn stood at the entrance, surrounded by music lovers. A familiar beat pulsed from within, pulling her into an unexpected wave of excitement. This wasn't where she had thought her heart would lead. Yet here she was, permitting herself to feel light, urging her worries to take a back seat for just a moment. Inside, she caught sight of Jake and Sarah swaying to the music. They were together, the burdens of their day temporarily forgotten as they lost themselves in the rhythm. Their smiles were genuine, a kind of magic that lifted everything they had felt earlier. Evelyn's heart ached with warmth. This was the laughter she had longed to hear, a perfect balance to their many troubles. But then, just as she felt immersed in this shared joy, her phone buzzed in her pocket. A notification and alert that whispered of progress they hadn't quite made. Cafe's growth report. She read quietly, tension creeping back in. "Mom, are you coming?" Sarah called, and for one moment, she hesitated, torn between seconds of carefree music and the realities soon waiting for her. What if tonight isn't just a retreat, but also a turning point? As the beat thumped more aggressively, Evelyn caught her breath. Every decision hung in the air, each rhythm leading them towards a choice. What would they discover next? Would this night be about avoiding their problems or finding renewed strength to face them? In that instant, uncertainty gripped her once again. What awaited them beyond this moment of laughter? Evelyn's heart raced with the pulse of the music, feeling as if the rhythm could drown out her worries entirely. The vibrant lights flickered overhead, casting playful shadows across faces illuminated by joy. Sarah and Jake had merged into the crowd, lost in a world that felt far removed from their daily struggles. It was mesmerizing watching them, two souls free, their laughter threading through the song's melody. But her phone buzzed again, an unwelcome reminder of reality. She tried to ignore it. The cafe's growth report, the food bank plans, the family meetings, they all seemed so far away in this moment. Yet, they were like an anchor, tethering her to the responsibilities that clung to her even in such joyous scenes. Suddenly, the vibrant chaos around her dimmed, and the weight of her decisions pressed heavily. What if they didn't understand? She wondered. What if this would all come crashing down when reality struck again? Just then, Sarah spotted her and waved, pulling Evelyn back into the moment. "Come on, Mom. Dance." Sarah's invitation rang clear, urging her to abandon her worries. Evelyn hesitated. "I don't know, sweetie. I should probably," but before she could finish her sentence, Jake was beside her, tugging at her hand. "Just one song. Let go for a minute. You owe it to yourself." His eyes were full of mischief, that same spark she'd seen in him when he was younger before life started weighing down on them all. Evelyn couldn't resist. Maybe they truly could rejuvenate amid the chaos. Perhaps this wasn't a distraction, but a necessary pause. Yes, she stepped into the crowd. The music enveloped her, pulling her into its magnetic pull. She could feel the energy, the collective joy, and for a moment, all the tensions faded. She allowed herself to get carried away, losing track of time as they danced. "Yes," Sarah shouted, spinning around with a carefree laugh, her infectious energy cascading over Evelyn like a warm blanket. That small moment felt monumental, a tiny revolution against their doubts and fears. Jake caught her eye, and for the first time in a while, Evelyn felt a glimmer of something she hadn't in ages. Hope. But just as she began to settle into this bliss, the music shifted. The infectious beat slowed, and with it came a change in the air. Suddenly, she heard a commotion to her left. A group of fans had started to chant something. A sudden wave of tension surged through the crowd. "What is happening?" Sarah shouted over the music, looking toward the disturbance. Evelyn squinted, trying to catch a glimpse of what was going on. Her heart dropped as the words became clearer. A commotion had arisen as someone had been escorted out. Arguments broke out between concert-goers around them, and her instinct kicked, and this was not just a simple concert. "Maybe we should," she started, but Sarah had already stood on her toes, scanning ahead. "No, don't. I want to enjoy this." Sarah's voice quivered slightly, a mix of uncertainty and determination. Evelyn felt torn. The environment had shifted from carefree to tense in an instant. What if the end of this night wouldn't be as they hoped? Yet, just then, a burst of laughter erupted a few feet away. A couple was reenacting the dance moves from the stage, and suddenly, the crowd began to chuckle, pulling the chaos back into laughter. Evelyn felt her heart lighten again. Maybe there was still hope amongst the struggle, a balance they could find even in uproar. But then her phone buzzed again, this time a message from her cafe manager that read, "Emergency, meeting tomorrow. Need you there." The dance floor swayed, and her heart ached with uncertainty again. Would family, laughter, and joy be enough if the other side of life kept looming? As music thumped once more, Evelyn's heart raced between two worlds. Could she hold this balance? Would tomorrow break what they built tonight? And just like that, a truth flickered in her mind. What if tonight has the power to change everything? The question hung in the air, almost tangible. What was about to unfold next? And could they face it all together? Evelyn stood on the edge of the dance floor, caught between two realities. The laughter and music swirled around her, an intoxicating mix of freedom and festivity, but the message on her phone anchored her to the ground. An emergency meeting? It felt like a storm cloud hovering just above her, threatening to rain on her newfound joy. "Mom," Sarah called, her voice brimming with excitement as she waved her hand to beckon her back. Evelyn hesitated, but then felt the tug of her daughter's energy like a lifeline. She pushed the anxiety aside, stepped forward, and joined them in the fray, her feet moving to the beat that seemed to unite everyone in happy solidarity. But as they danced, the laughter faded away, replaced by the murmur of anxious voices. Evelyn noticed that people were glancing at their phones, their expressions shifting from glee to concern. She exchanged worried looks with Jake. They all felt the change sweeping through the crowd. Suddenly, a loud shout pierced the noise. "Did you hear? There has been a fight outside." The words fanned the flames of unease, and the dance floor seemed to shrink as whispers spiraled. Evelyn gripped Sarah's hand tightly, sensing her excitement falter. "Mom, what do we do?" Sarah's voice was uncertain now. The carefree girl she'd been moments ago dashed by reality. "We stick together," Evelyn said with determination, squeezing her daughter's hand for reassurance. She refused to let the chaos unravel their night completely. "Let us keep dancing and enjoy this moment. We can deal with the rest later." But the atmosphere shifted dramatically. People began to whisper about leaving, and some even pushed toward the exits. The vibrant colors of the lights felt like they dimmed for a moment, reflecting the nervous energy hanging heavy in the air. "I want to stay," Jake said, catching his mother's eye, as if searching for reassurance. "Please, can we just enjoy the concert?" Evelyn wanted to agree. The music still beat on, offering a comforting blanket, but reality was creeping back in. She felt the weight of her responsibilities colliding with the joy of being present. Decisions they needed to make, promises to fulfill, everything clamoring for her attention. "We can't let fear take this moment from us," she asserted. "Let us not let anxiety govern how we feel." As she spoke, she noticed some attendees beginning to dance again, shrugging off the discord, a balm to the rising tension. She felt the warmth of that hope and knew they had to find that spark as well. In a moment of rebellion against the looming worries, she led Sarah and Jake further into the crowd, throwing her arms up as the beat regained its grip on the floor. They danced, weaving through the shifting crowd, reminding themselves of the power of laughter and connection. And then, in that chaotic bliss, another buzz at her side. Evelyn grabbed her phone to check her messages, only to feel her heart race. Once more, another message from the cafe manager. "Meeting is canceled. We have bigger priorities." A spark of relief rushed through her, but just as quickly, it was overshadowed by uncertainty. What did bigger priorities mean? Clarity evaded her like the fading echoes of the music. Was it a sign of hope or something more disruptive? As she looked at her children, caught between excitement and concern, she knew this night wasn't just a pause in their worries. It was a turning point. The promise of change loomed closer. But could they truly navigate this new path together? Evelyn felt the pulse of the music and uncertainty starting to intertwine harmoniously, creating an atmosphere thick with potential. The night could lead to something either joyous or challenging. And amid that chaos, one question took root. What could it mean if their world shifted when the lights dimmed and the music wrapped around them like a heavy blanket? Somewhere deep inside, she hoped for the chance to reshape everything. But how far could hope carry them in a night like this? Evelyn pulled her children closer as the music pulsed around them once more. With each beat, she tried to shake off the heaviness that clung to her, but the nagging feeling of uncertainty buzzed just beneath the surface. They kept dancing, but underneath the lively facade, there was a growing sense of vulnerability. "Mom, what do you think is happening?" Sarah asked, her voice rising above the noise, her eyes darting around, as if looking for reassurance in the throng of people. "I'm not sure, but we must stay together," Evelyn replied. "No matter what." She forced a smile, trying to mirror Sarah's enthusiasm, but felt her heart steadying against the worry that crept back in. The crowd around them thinned, as more and more people began making their way toward the exits. Evelyn glanced to find Jake tapping his foot, his brow furrowed. "I think I just saw someone I know," he shouted, gesturing toward the doorway. "Wait." Evelyn instinctively grabbed his shoulder, concern written across her face. "Let us stay put for now. I don't want you getting separated." Behind her brave front, she felt the familiar surge of anxiety, a push to protect her children in an uncertain storm. The DJ sensed the shift in the atmosphere and tried to pump up the crowd with catchy rhythms. "Let us keep this party alive," he called out, attempting to lift the spirits. A few people jumped back into the circle, but it felt forced, like they were trying to dispel a shadow rather than embrace the night. Then a voice rang out from somewhere at the back. "It's safe. A few guys just got carried away." Relief washed over the crowd in pockets, as if a collective weight had lifted. But Evelyn remained on high alert, her instincts threading a tight grip around her heart. "See, Mom? It'll all be okay." Jake beamed, light and hope flaring in his eyes. Evelyn looked at her children vibrant and full of life, even amid chaos. She took a deep breath, allowing the melody to sway through her, feeling the energy of those who had decided to dance despite the uncertainty. There was always a choice. They could drown in worry or rise with joy. She chose joy. "Let us just enjoy this moment," she said, lifting her arms and losing herself to the rhythm. As they danced, the energy shifted again, growing lighter. Conversation sparked, laughter broke through, and the tentative connections began to weave a new tapestry of unity. Evelyn felt herself melting into it all, every movement setting her free, the worries that burdened her dissipating in the beat. Then a chilling announcement crackled through the speakers. "Due to unforeseen circumstances, the concert is officially over. Please exit the venue in an orderly fashion." People froze, mouths agape, and murmurs rippled through the crowd, rising like smoke. Panic returned, and with it came waves of uncertainty as the music faded abruptly. Evelyn's heart sank, her hope flickering, then reigniting with resolve. "All right, let us go," she said, taking hold of her children. "Stick close to me. We'll navigate this." The crowd pushed toward the exits, a mass of worries and hurried footsteps. Evelyn's grip tightened around Sarah's hand, feeling the pulse of those around her, more fear, more urgency. But she remained steadfast. Outside, the air felt electric and charged with whispers of concern and confusion. As they exited the venue, the buzz of the street felt wild and urgent. Evelyn glanced back, searching for the moment they had almost captured, a night filled with joy that had so swiftly darkened. "What now, Mom?" Sarah asked, her voice small against the abruptness of reality. Evelyn hesitated. The truth was, she had no plan. The worries that weighed down her heart surged back, but she also felt a flicker of something powerful building within. "I don't know yet, but change might bring us something incredible." Jake leaned against her, his warmth grounding her as they stood amidst the chaos. The moment felt raw and fragile, their lives suddenly teetering on the edge of something unknown. But perhaps this uncertainty was a birth of a new beginning. How far could that hope take them now? And as they stepped into the night, where the world felt different and possibilities hung thick in the air, one burning question lingered. What awaited them out there, beyond this storm? Evelyn took a deep breath, trying to take in the scene before her. The city was alive with the sounds of sirens and voices raised in concern. She could see worried expressions on faces she didn't know, and the uncertainty felt like a blanket draped over them all. If only she could shake it off, slip through the cracks of this overwhelming night. Let us find a quiet place, somewhere we can think for a moment, she suggested, steering them away from the anxious crowd. They walked a few blocks, her heart racing as she glanced back, wanting to be sure they weren't losing anyone. Sarah and Jake stayed right next to her, their hands still connected to hers. Look, there's a coffee shop over there, Jake pointed out, tilting his head toward a warm light spilling onto the sidewalk like a lifeline. They stepped inside, the door chiming gently behind them, bringing a flush of warmth that contrasted sharply with the chill outside. Inside, the familiar smell of coffee and pastries enveloped them. Evelyn led her children to a small table at the back. The hum of conversations and clinking of cups offered a brief comfort, like a blanket against the storm outside. "Do you want something warm?" she asked, her voice softer now, trying to create a calm atmosphere. "I'll take hot chocolate," Jake said, his eyes brightening for the first time that night. "And I want a muffin," Sarah chimed in, her spirit evidently picking up in this cozy haven. "What do you want, Mom?" Jake's innocent question snapped Evelyn back to reality. She realized that she hadn't even thought about herself. "Just some tea will be fine," she replied, attempting a smile despite the knot in her stomach. As they waited for their order, the shadows of fear nipped at the edges of her thoughts. A couple at the next table chatted about the events unfolding outside, and she caught snippets of their talk, rumors of what had happened at the concert, speculation about a sudden fight, whispers of panic. It was hard to separate truth from speculation, and that added to her unease. Evelyn turned her gaze to her kids. Jake was tracing patterns on the table, lost in thought, while Sarah chewed her lip, gazing nervously at the door as if waiting for the world outside to break through. "Mom, what happened?" Sarah's voice trembled slightly. It was a nice party, and then Evelyn took a moment. Why couldn't she find the right words? Sometimes things can change unexpectedly. "But we're okay. We're safe," she reassured, feeling the warmth of her conviction. "And we're together. That's what matters the most." Just as the barista approached with their drinks and treats, a loud crash echoed outside, followed by a surge of voices. The door swung open, and a man stumbled in, wild-eyed and out of breath. The chatter in the shop ceased as everyone turned to him. "You've got to help," he gasped, panic reverberating in his voice. "They're out of control. There's something happening in the streets. We have to get out before it gets worse." Evelyn's heart plummeted. She glanced at Jake and Sarah, who looked back at her wide-eyed. What was going on? Was that the storm they had stepped into? The coffee shop suddenly felt less like a refuge and more like a cage. "Mom?" Jake's voice broke through her thoughts. "What do we do?" Evelyn clenched her jaw, weighing her options. "We need to leave, but stay close. No matter what." She took a deep breath, ready to face whatever was out there. They had come this far together, and she wouldn't let fear take them down without a fight. And just as they moved toward the door, another group came rushing in. Could they really escape the chaos outside, or would they have to find a way through it together? As Evelyn stepped toward the door, her heart raced. Panic filled the air, mingled with the scent of coffee, amplifying the urgency of the moment. She squeezed Jake and Sarah's hands tighter, as if her grip could shield them from the unknown. The new group that rushed and was made up of hurried faces, disheveled and wide-eyed, and they piled into the coffee shop, creating a sense of claustrophobia. A woman in a denim jacket, breathless, looked around at the gathered patrons, her voice rising with every word she spoke. "We need to lock the door. They're coming." "What do you mean they're coming?" Evelyn's fear burst out in a whisper. It wasn't her intention to question, but the weight of the woman's words demanded clarity. "Something has happened outside. A staged fight turned into chaos. People are panicking." The woman looked young, maybe in her 20s, but the terror in her eyes aged her. The murmurs in the cafe turned into a cacophony, everyone engaged in hushed conversations and darting glances toward the entrance. "Maybe we should leave now," said Jake, his voice a mix of worry and dread. Sarah, glued to the table, trembled like a leaf. "I don't want to go out there," she cried, the tears pooling in her eyes. Evelyn's heart shattered a little more. Evelyn knelt to be eye level with her daughter. "Listen, sweetheart, we'll be okay. We just need to stick together." She steadied her voice, hoping to convey strength. "If we can find somewhere safe out there, we'll be fine. I promise." The barista watched nervously, clearly unsure of what to do. "This is crazy," he whispered to a co-worker, breaking the hushed tension but amplifying the urgency. Evelyn stood taller, determination coursing through her. "We can't stay here and wait for whatever is out there to come to us. We have to make our move." She gripped her children's hands firmly. "On the count of 3, we exit and continue to find safe ground. Ready?" Sarah nodded, but her gaze dropped. Jake squeezed her back, trying to offer comfort, even as fear gripped him too. 1, 2, 3. As one, they shot for the door, the chaos of the cafe buzzing around them like angry hornets. Evelyn pushed the door open just as a wave of screams erupted from outside, a surge of panic that made her freeze for just a heartbeat. A world of confusion awaited them. The streets were a riot of flashing lights, people shoving their way past each other, fear palpable in the air. Evelyn felt her chest tighten. "Where do we go from here?" "Mom, look." Jake pointed, his voice rising above the din near the street corner. She spotted a figure grappling with another, their shouts mingling with the escalating chaos. "We need to keep moving," Evelyn urged, tugging her children forward, heart pounding behind her ribs. With each step, she tried to shield them from the chaos, but it was everywhere. Shouts of anger, flashes of light, cries for help. It overwhelmed her senses. In desperation, she turned down an alley, hoping it would lead them away from the disturbance. The narrow passageway felt both like a refuge and a trap. She glanced over her shoulder, the noise of the street fading slightly, but anxiety was still knotted in her stomach. "Are we safe here, Mom?" Sarah's question, soft yet heavy, echoed in the gloom. Evelyn sighed, trying to catch her breath. "For now, yes. But we need to figure out our next step." Just as she spoke, strange shapes lurked at the alley's mouth. Shadows danced, making her feel exposed. Were they being followed? "Mom, look," Jake said again, his voice urgent and sharp. Evelyn turned and gasped. Emerging from the shadows, a figure stepped forward. Was it friend or foe? The tension in her chest wound tighter, and she was left with one scorching thought. What if this was the moment that changed everything? Her grip on her children tightened as she faced the encroaching figure, a mix of fear and hope bubbling beneath her skin. What would happen next? As the figure came into the light, Evelyn's heart raced. It was an old friend, Tom, a familiar face she hadn't seen in years. Relief washed over her instantly, mingling with confusion. "Tom, what are you doing here?" she gasped, pulling her children closer, as if the simple presence of an ally could ward off the chaos. "Evelyn, I heard the commotion from the street. I came to help," he said, urgency in his voice. "There's been a misunderstanding, but people are panicking. We can't stay here." "Help? How?" Jake asked, his small frame trembling with anxiety. "Follow me," Tom urged, glancing back nervously toward the entrance of the alley. Without waiting for a response, he turned and dashed further into the alley. Evelyn exchanged hesitant glances with Sarah and Jake, but felt that flicker of hope return. If anyone could lead them to safety, it was Tom. They sprinted after him, dodging debris and keeping low. The sounds behind them echoed through the tight corridor, yelling, sirens, the hum of chaos. Each footfall felt charged with urgency, pushing them forward into uncertain safety. "Where are we going?" Sarah's voice cracked as she clung to Evelyn's hand, the warmth of her grip grounding her. "Just a couple of blocks down. There's a community center that should still be open," Tom replied, glancing back. "They're organizing a refuge there." The adrenaline surged through Evelyn. The food bank initiative had led to bringing people together, and now it was time to lean into that spirit again. "If we can get to the community center, we can regroup she said, her voice steadying, much to her surprise. "We are not alone in this. Our neighbors are ready to support each other." Evelyn led her children, trust bubbling once again. They threaded deeper into the heart of Maplewood, under the flickering streetlights that symbolized a heartbeat still alive. And in those embers of panic, she realized that this chaotic moment was shaping a new chapter. They were not just survivors. They were a family ready to stand together as their community faced the storm. As they rounded a corner, the community center emerged, illuminated like a lighthouse in a turbulent sea. The door was propped open, and the muffled sounds of people inside encouraged Evelyn to push forward. Once inside, they were welcomed by familiar faces, neighbors who had come to share their bounty and support. "Evelyn, thank God you're here," spoke Mrs. Garcia, their kind-hearted neighbor who had been tirelessly organizing efforts for the food bank. "We were worried about everyone." Evelyn's chest swelled with pride. "We made it together," she said, her voice steady now as she stood before the familiar faces. "We can do this. Let us help those who need us." "Just like we planned," Sarah said, her eyes shining with newfound determination. Jake nodded, his earlier fears fading as the energy in the room enveloped them. They were no longer separated by anxiety or burdens. They were united in their mission. Evelyn felt the strength rebuild in her heart, brighter than the flickering lights of the concert or the shadows that had threatened them in the alley. They had faced uncertainty, felt fear, but the light of community spirit was a powerful antidote to doubt. As the conversations swirled around her and the atmosphere shifted back to one of unity and purpose, Evelyn knew this was the turning point they needed. Together, they would harness the love and connections that were the true essence of Maplewood, in that bustling, vibrant room filled with laughter and determination. The storm outside began to dissipate. They would rise and face the challenges ahead, but this time it would be as a family, rooted in the unshakable bond of hope and love. And in the midst of it all, as they readied themselves to rebuild their community, Evelyn whispered a silent promise to her children. "No matter what storms come our way, we'll always find our way home to each other." So, as the night wore on and the chaos transformed into a symphony of community spirit, she lifted her head high, ready to face whatever lay ahead together. Now, dear viewers, this is your moment. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire and uplift. Leave a like now, because every click feeds the algorithm and brings more powerful tales to life. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this heartwarming ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to support us, and every action counts. Don't wait, not even one more second.